Hey everybody, welcome to Flicks Talk. As you see, I think I want to talk about podcasts today. Not only do I make videos and watch a lot of movies, but I also listen to a lot of podcasts. Or I try to. Most of the podcasts that I listen to are true crime related, because I pretty much fall asleep to listening to 48 Hours, 2020, Dateline, those type shows, true crime shows. I can just, Keith Morrison just puts me to sleep in a good way. Him and the other people from those shows. Anyway, in 2022, in the spring of 2022, I was listening to a podcast. I don't know what it was. It may have been just some other true crime ones, like Morbid. Two women do that one, which they're hilarious. Rated R, I would say, because of their language. But every commercial break, even on the radio in the car, they advertise for podcasts, and it's like every commercial break, they advertise this podcast that was about to come out, which came out like in the spring of 2022. And so what I did was, okay, after listening to the commercial, the ad, for it a few times, I decided on my iPod I would listen to it. So I found it, on Spotify or iHeartRadio, saved it, and then listened to it after it had already uploaded all the episodes, so that way I can just kind of binge listen to it later on. So that's what I did in the fall, like around October, November, December, right before the Christmas break of 2022. I listened to that podcast that I listened to, the ads in the spring of 2022, and 13 episodes, and starting with the first episode, my mouth pretty much dropped open. And since this is true crime and it was historical, it made me, what really made me question is, like, did I learn the truth in school when I was in history class? Because it's like, I think I was lied to. Everything I learned in school was a lie when it comes to history. Not necessarily a lie I was taught, but they didn't really tell us the complete truth. They didn't, the people who write these textbooks, they just put in the books what they want you to learn. So if there's a topic in history that you guys really enjoy, really like, y'all need to, not really go by what the history book says, and, textbooks in middle school, high school, maybe college. You need to go to the library. You can search it online too, but go to the library, get a book. Get a book. Get a book. Get a book. This isn't anything that I'm talking about today, but just get a book, that has pages that you can read, and you can smell the pages. Just go to the library and get a book. Save the eyes from looking at a screen, and read about that topic. So, with Martin Luther King Jr. Day just passing of 2024, so Happy New Year, guys. The podcast I listened to was the MLK Tapes. And so what I learned about the Martin Luther King Jr. assassination of 1968, y'all, you listen to that podcast, you're going to be questioning yourself. I'm like, what you think you learned was the truth was not. What you thought was, what happened was not. Who you think was involved was not. I mean, everything you just know about it is not even right. It's not correct. So, I'm going to tell you just a little bit about it, but if you want to listen to it, MLK Tapes, listen to it. Starting with the first episode, started off with our wonderful director, of the FBI at the time, J. Edgar Hoover, this is what he did. This is kind of how the series started. J. Edgar Hoover, in the tail end of 1963, right after JFK was assassinated, but before January 1st of 1964, he had a meeting with the guys that ran his offices, the FBI offices, in Atlanta, Birmingham, and Memphis. And he told those guys, he pretty much gave an order. He told them that he wanted Martin Luther King dead in 1964. Well, I don't know what the holdup was. We all know that wasn't really carried out until 68. But y'all, the director of the FBI ordered a hit for another person, which wasn't the first one. He already ordered another hit beforehand. But still, so it's like, holy cow. It's like, well, that's not the first one. I mean, he is involved with the JFK assassination. Duh. And even with the 60 years, last year was the 60th anniversary of JFK. I watched some documentaries. I learned more stuff about that. Anyway, I'm going to be kind of flip-flopping a little bit with the JFK assassination and the Robert Kennedy assassination. The 60s, known as the assassination decade, as I refer it. Just the K's assassination, as in the two Kennedys, the King. I don't know a thing about Malcolm X. I know he was assassinated in the 60s, I think in 64. But I don't know the reasoning. I don't know him. Don't know anything. I just know that Denzel Washington played him in a movie, which I did not see. So, when it comes to assassinations in the 60s, I will not be talking about Malcolm X. Maybe in the future video, but not today. Anyway, so in this podcast, this guy talks to the guy that does the podcast. He talks to this man named William Pepper, who met Martin Luther King in 1967, a year before he was killed. And he stayed with Martin Luther King until he was killed. And then he spent the next 40 years plus investigating his murder. Now, can you just tell me what I just said? So the guy met Martin Luther King a year before he was killed. And then he spent the next 40 plus years investigating the assassination. So if it was clear and cut of who did it, like I learned, hey, James Earl Ray did it. So if this William Pepper dude, was investigating for over 40 years, then did James Earl Ray not do it? Anyway, so the tapes part of the podcast is that William Pepper actually went around when he was doing his investigation and he made tapes of people he talked with. Memphis as a whole. Now, as I said several minutes ago, J. Edgar Hoover talked to the head guys of Atlanta, Birmingham, and Memphis, wanting Martin Luther King dead. And Martin Luther King was killed in Memphis. See, that's one of the three cities that he it's just right there, just, it just things kind of like, it's almost like a puzzle that you're just trying to put together. Anyway, so this William Pepper talked to this guy in Birmingham, where we know that James Earl Ray stopped and bought a gun and talked to this man named Raul, who James Earl Ray always mentioned Raul. Always talked about this guy named Raul. No one can, the officials, like FBI, could never find this guy named Raul, but James Earl Ray swears that, he was real and stuff. So, anyway, for one, James Earl Ray, escaped from prison, I believe, from Canada, so he was in the United States. So he kind of had to dodge the police, but he wasn't too careful. He was careful, but not extremely careful. But anyway, back to Birmingham. So James Earl Ray bought a gun, took it back to someone, Raul, and Raul told him, that is the wrong gun. You need to take that back. That right there was a red flag to me. And that was the second episode, I think, maybe third, when you kind of hear this. And I'm like, so if I learned that James Earl Ray shot and killed Martin Luther King, but yet he bought the wrong type of gun, which means to me he didn't know anything about guns, because that's what the guy said at the gun shop. The owner, the guy that ran the store, manager, whatever, whoever that William Pepper talked to, who helped James Earl Ray with the gun, he said he didn't know anything about guns. So how can someone who doesn't know a thing about guns shoot the target perfectly with one shot? Because I looked it up. I did my little investigation. How many shots did it take for King to get hit? It was just one shot that was fired. One shot. One. It took what? I'm going to go with multiple shots. I'm not going to say multiple shots. I'm not going to say a number. With the JFK assassination. But yet, one for Martin Luther King with someone who doesn't know a thing about guns. Yeah. Anyway, that right there is he did not do it. That right there to me is James Earl Ray, he didn't shoot Martin Luther King. And even after listening to the rest of the episodes, I'm yeah. He didn't do it. Don't know who did. I don't think we'll ever will. Except for maybe saying government involved. But other than that, it's anyway. Memphis as a whole, though, with William Pepper kind of doing his little investigation for all those 40 years, it was hard for him to find people to talk. And right across the street from the Lorraine Motel, where Martin Luther King was staying, no one, there's a fire station right there, right across the street. Those people were sealed tight. I don't know if someone told them to not say a word, or they knew the plans or what, but they didn't really talk to people like the officials, like police and the other officials doing the investigation. But William Pepper was able to at least talk to some people that weren't talking to the police. He was able to get them to talk. But there's just too many things that went wrong with his Memphis trip, with Martin Luther King's Memphis trip. For one, everywhere he went, he had security detail. He had security detail. Just like if you watch the footage of the motorcade of JFK's, you see the Secret Service being called back at a certain point. Easier target for JFK to get killed. Okay, so in the Memphis trip, security detail was called off. There was no security for Martin Luther King for Memphis. He just had the people he was with, his little posse, and that was it. at the Lorraine Motel, he was supposed to stay on the ground level, a room on the ground level. But at the last minute, they had to make a change, and they put him on the top floor, the second floor. I think it only had 2 floors. But anyway, the top floor, second floor, that's where he stayed. Obvious, you see the famous photo with them pointing. That's where the gunshot came from. But anyway, so why was that? From the bottom level to the top level. Easier target to be hit. Good Lord. Okay. And plus, I think through the years, they came, William Pepper was able to prove that the gunshot did not come from the boarding house where James Earl Ray was staying, but, get this, a little bit familiar too, behind a fence, kind of like with someone saying that, they saw someone with the gun behind a fence on the grassy knoll with the JFK assassination. The person who I think who killed Martin Luther King was this Raoul guy from Canada that nobody can find or heard of or have seen him, have heard him, just James Earl Ray. He was the one that wanted the gun, wrong type of gun, he sent him back. He knew guns. I mean, unless James Earl Ray got the gun, and I don't know when he got the gun. It could have been some time where he could practice with the gun, shoot, practice with it. But with firing one shot and hitting the target perfectly, for which he would die just hours later. Even Oswald wasn't that good. Took him a few shots, right? But then again, the FBI has actually cleared him of any involvement with the JFK assassination. Retired FBI agent said that. You're not going to find one that's still active. They could lose their job, but if you're retired, hey, I can speak all my mind about whatever. Anyway, James Earl Ray, they caught up with him. He claims he was driving his white Mustang, I believe it was a white Mustang, right past the Rain Motel when there was police activity there. Which means he was nowhere, he wasn't even in the boarding house, he wasn't there. There was no way he could have fired the shot because he was elsewhere driving around in Memphis in his car. And when he was coming back, all the police activity was there. He was kind of wanted because he escaped prison, which he didn't even do anything like violent. It wasn't for a violent crime. I think he was just like for thievery or something. I mean, it was just minor crimes that he did. Nothing violent. So it didn't really match up with his personality. Yeah, let's get someone who just does little minor thievery stuff and put him as a murder suspect. That government always chooses the wrong fall guy, but whatever. But anyway, he did get arrested, obviously, and someone got to him, and I think the FBI got to him and sweet-talked him. Say, listen, this is the way you just plead guilty and this and this and that and this and that and that and this and whatever. They just kind of sugarcoated everything. Like, everything's going to be fine if you just do this and that and say this and that and this will happen and blah, blah, blah. Where none of that happened or whatever. So he pled guilty. He didn't go through any trial. And then he spent, the rest of his life in jail for something he potentially, most likely, I don't know, didn't do. William Pepper met with him multiple times, many times, and recorded him and talked to him, and he after several times of talking to him in prison, William Pepper was like, there was no way this guy could have killed Martin Luther King. For one, his IQ was so low, he could be involved in a crime and not even know he is involved in a crime. So, And then, being a friend of Martin Luther King for a year before he was shot. Obviously, you know, he's met his wife and kids and stuff, so after talking to James Earl Ray, William Pepper went to, you know, Martin Luther King's widow and kids and said, hey, listen, you need to have a talk with him. And they did. They talked to James Earl Ray. Even Martin Luther King's family, especially his wife, didn't believe that he had anything to do with the death, with the shooting, with the murder of Martin Luther King. So you got the family of the victim not even believing that this dude did it. Believes that he's innocent. I need to find it, but somewhere, maybe on YouTube, but either HBO or Showtime back in the early to mid 90s, they did a mock trial of James Earl Ray and, you know, Martin Luther King of the assassination. And in that mock trial, they proved James Earl Ray innocent of the crime. After James Earl Ray found that out, he said, well, you know what? I never got a trial. And so he wanted one. After that coming about, it's like, you know what? If they prove me innocent in this, then can I not have a real one? So they actually, you know, the courts did deem, you know, he did deserve a trial. So they were going to give him a trial. And they had a judge was picked out, a judge that was going to allow evidence to be presented in court to prove that he was innocent. Well, even in the 90s, even in the mid-90s, the government was still hiding the fact that they were just hiding the truth. They were still hiding the truth even in the 90s. Because you know what they did? They removed that judge and assigned another judge to that case. And then that judge was not going to allow that evidence to prove him innocent in court. And what kind of crap is that? Literally, guys, our justice system, our judicial system, it just sucks. That's just the only word I can come up with to be, you know, trying to keep it kid level. But, you know, because I really want to say other stuff about it, but you are literally guilty, and you have to prove your innocence in this country. It used to be, hey, you're innocent until proven guilty. Yeah, right. No, you're guilty until you are proven innocent. End of story. I don't want to hear anything about it. That's how it is. I've seen too much Dateline in 48 hours in 2020. I've seen too many shows where innocent people go to jail for all these years, and then like, oh, guess what? You're innocent. I told you that from day one, and yet I spent 20 years in jail, prison. So yeah, you're guilty until you're proven innocent in this country. It's the way it is. It's supposed to be the other way around. I think it probably once was, but it's not anymore. So anyway, James Earl Ray was just getting ready to go on trial, but he never made it. You want to know why? Because he died before he was able to get to trial. So we'll never know how that would have turned out. The last episode, I'm not really going to go into detail on this one, but the last episode for the MLK tapes really has nothing to do with Martin Luther King. It's just, has nothing to do but with, I just hate this man. God, I'm so glad he's dead. Anyway, that just deals with J. Edgar Hoover and kind of person he was, which is like, okay. But anyway, that's the MLK tapes. If you want to get more information, more in-depth information, listen to the podcast. It's really good. And I will finish this video off with this, okay? You know, Martin Luther King didn't deserve none of the assassination guys who were killed by a bullet in the 60s deserve that. There's other ways things could have been handled, but I did watch a documentary. I found a documentary. I think it was semi-new. I think it may have come out in 2022, or just in recent years. But the whole show, I watched the whole show, and then in text at the very end, at the tail end of that show, right before it was like over, little text came up where it claims that the FBI did find that Raoul from Canada. And I'm like, Raoul did it. That's what they did. Raoul from Canada did it. He was the one. I think he was, this is just me talking my opinion of what happened to Martin Luther King. Raoul from Canada did it. The government somehow got in touch with him. They nailed the... They made the evidence show that James Earl Ray did it, even though he didn't. Finding his stuff in just a store doorway, like just right down the street from the motel, or his boarding house. So, and again, he claims he was in the car driving past it with police there. So I don't know the exact truth, but everyone's learning false information in school, unless they're using I can't talk. Unless they are using the word alleged in there somewhere, the wording has to be kind of done correctly in order for it to come across that maybe he didn't do it. But I know when it comes to Martin Luther King, everyone's saying James Earl Ray did it. But no, he should be the alleged killer. They need to change, just put that one word in there. That's all they really gotta do, just put that one word in the textbook right there. When they're kind of like, saying who did it, just alleged right there. Alleged James Earl Ray. Just like alleged Lee Harvey Oswald. Anyway, yeah, so, whatever. It's just, you got people who are falsely accused of doing things that they didn't do, and they're in prison, and that's just one thing, just, why? Why can't they just not get it right? They got Sirhan halfway right. Okay? He attempted murder. Attempted murder. Oh, Robert Kennedy. Attempted. Robert Kennedy wasn't killed by Sirhan. You want to know the truth? Talk to Robert Kennedy Jr., because he knows. And he actually said it when he was, like, running for president. So, in a little interview, talking about his dad and his assassination. So, yeah, Junior, he said there's some like security guards, some police officers standing right behind Robert Kennedy. And sorry, but Sirhan was way too far away to hit that because that neck shot to the neck, that's what killed Robert Kennedy, not the shots that Sirhan took. So I kind of believe with half of Robert Kennedy's kids, he had 11. 2 of them are gone now, I believe. David for sure. I think Michael in the accident. Okay. So 9. I think there's 9 still around. So half of them think that Sirhan, he should go ahead and be released, paroled, and the other half, he needs to stay there in prison. So. But when you see the barrel mark on the back of the neck or on the skin, it's the gun's got to be right there, touching the skin. I mean, if it's a little burn mark, it's got to be right there against the skin or very close to it. And that's what they saw on Robert Kennedy's neck, and yet Sirhan Sirhan is taking the fall for that. Attempted murder, but not murder. It's a difference. History, man. I don't know what it is with history books. Going back on this little tangent on history. I don't know what it is, but the writers of history books, you can't change history. Quit. Quit trying. It ain't working. It's not going to work. You can't do it. So just stop. Be honest. Tell the truth. Get it over with. Quit. Tell the truth. Stop sugarcoating. Slaves were slaves. They weren't field workers or whatever they are called now. I'm quite sure, because they gotta sugarcoat words now. I'm quite sure slaves you don't even see in history books anymore. I think I have some history books when I went to school, and they have word slave in it. Today, to me, I would call them field workers to be politically correct. But I just can't wait to have a Gen X. We had a Generation X president in office, and oh my God, can't wait for that day. I will die a happy person. Y'all, anyway, me being silly. But, yeah, I do have a book, mini books, but I do have a book about the Robert Kennedy assassination, and I need to read it so that way I know more about it. But what I have learned was either from the family itself, lots of documentaries, a little bit of reading. That's, other than that, it's not like you can go back to the Ambassador Hotel because they tore that sucker down. Darn it. Anyway, they just put a thing there. I mean, there's a school there, but there's also some kind of memorial. Hey, this is where Robert Kennedy was shot. Anyway, okay. So anyway, yeah, MLK Tapes, for podcast. Other podcasts, I think there's an Exorcist one I'm listening to. I was listening to it as it was coming out, but I quit, so now I gotta binge listen the rest of that. I think I listened to 3 episodes, and now I gotta finish with that one. There's, mainly the ones that I listen to are either based on true events, true crime, just, those are the ones that interest me. I don't want to listen to just like someone reading a book to me, blah, 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 blah. Give me some truth into it. That way it kind of, it interests me. Just like, I kind of stopped on one, like Missing in Alaska, Cokie Roberts, the late Cokie Roberts, like her dad was on that plane that went missing. In the middle of that podcast, so I try to listen to it. Perfect thing to do while you're getting ready for work in the mornings, because some of them are, can be anywhere between like 20 to 45 minutes, just depends on how on the series or the length of that episode. But I listened to one about the Jodak. Jesus, I can't even talk tonight. It's been a while, y'all. It's been a while since I've been in front of this thing. The Zodiac Killer I listened to. The DC Sniper I listened to. I cut off the Atlanta Killer. I mean, he got pulled over. It's like, you know why he pulled you over? Yeah, because missing kids or whatever. Like, dude, you just told on yourself, you idiot. Off. So, what? I mean, I've seen documentaries on them, but podcast didn't really interest me. But anyway, yeah, the Zodiac, y'all, there's a, streaming, I don't know where, I have too many streaming services right now. Most of them are free, but, almost all of them are free. Just a few that aren't. The myths of the Zodiac, that really got me thinking on them. So, because not all of them were shot. Some of them were stabbed. At the Berryessa Lake, that couple was stabbed, and some of them were shot. And usually killers don't change the ways they kill. Not saying they don't. It's just usually they pick away and they stick with it. So there could be more than one Zodiac killer. Maybe there were 2 when they were always looking for one, and plus there were a few different composites by different witnesses that looked just looked different. But anyway, yeah. But the woman at the Berryessa Lake, though, that ended up dying, she actually did have a good conversation with the cop there before she died, and she gave a detailed description of the guy who she saw and everything. And that's, a lot of people don't know about that discussion, because he kind of kept it quiet for a while. But on one of the shows, one of the documentaries I watched, they talked to him and he came clean. So I'm like, that could have helped with the investigation, don't you think? So, yeah, whoever was the killer of the Zodiac, who I think can still be solved. I think that could still be solved. But anyway, it's solvable. They do have at least who killed the taxi driver in San Francisco. They got DNA from that guy, which was the most famous portrait with the glasses and everything of the Zodiac. So anyway, yeah, that's, those type of podcasts I listen to. But they have plenty, I mean, if you don't listen to podcasts, check them out. I mean, they have all interest in there. Whatever you're interested in, they got a podcast for it. And you can even watch podcasts on YouTube, because I watch some of the Lawrence brothers. So they're a little bit on the funny side, but also can get very serious. And I kind of stopped watching a little bit of theirs, because they got a little bit too serious, and I didn't want to, didn't want to cry. Anyway, so thank you for watching. I'm definitely going to do another one. The next video is not going to do with movies. Maybe this year I'm just going to do content on whatever. Movies, music, podcasts, YouTube videos, whatever. That's going to be next. Which I was actually getting ready to do that one, and yet I put the background as podcast, so I was like, oh, well, okay. It's January. Martin Luther King Jr. Day just passed. Let's talk about him. Anyway, thanks for watching, and give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. Anyway, yeah. So, stay warm if you're cold. And, thanks for watching, guys. See ya. Bye-bye.